Hello and welcome to the DEFCON Digest. I am Thomas Lonely Wolf, the director of the DEFCON warning system, and we are doing the 2021 Ask Me Anything. We do this once a year where you can ask me any question that you want, and I will do my best to answer them. I do have a list of questions that you asked, but I have not researched them. What I'm doing is I'm giving you off-the-cuff answers, so you're getting my true feelings and not something that I researched, thought about, and maybe, tried to find the most diplomatic, correct answer. So this is kind of like what I am thinking. So you can visit us on our community forum, community.defconwarningsystem.com. That's the place to interact with the DEFCON staff and other members of the public, where you can talk about the recent situation, talk about our sources and things like that, analyze what's going on. A lot of people leave comments on Twitter. Those are great, but we're not really able to answer Twitter comments or Facebook comments. We really want you on our community forum, where it's easier for us to follow threads and to give well thought out answers instead of answers that require 150 characters or something like that, which really isn't a real answer. So we gathered these questions from our community forum. We did pull some from Twitter and other places. So let's get right down to it for your new year. Let's see how much we can scare you. No, just kidding. First question is, what is your personal take on Russia, and do you think the West? I just had a caramel bar and some sour balls. What is your personal take on Russia, and do you think the West will be able to actually confront Putin and his actions? My personal take on Russia, so I guess this has something to do with what's going on in Ukraine right now, the buildup going on over there, and the confrontation happening between NATO and Russia over Ukraine and NATO's expansion and like that. Okay, here's the deal with Russia. They have in the words, to borrow a phrase from Crimson Tide, they have a weed up their butt and a serious and a legitimate gripe. That was the line. I changed one of the words, but Russia has a legitimate gripe. NATO has expanded past the borders that they promised. Russia has violated a number of agreements that they made, including with the medium-range ballistic missile treaty and some other stuff. So basically, neither side can be trusted. But here's the thing with Russia. Russia, for the last couple centuries, has had this big bullseye on its back and an invade here sign on their doorstep. And they're kind of paranoid about being invaded, so anybody that they consider not their friend, getting too close to their borders, makes them nervous. So NATO may see themselves as trying to defend themselves against the former Soviet Union and Soviet Union coming back and an aggressive Russia. And whether any of these things are true, let's say Russia is being absolutely egregious, let's say they're wrong in every sense of the word, and NATO is being very legitimate in trying to shore up their defenses, defend Poland and the other countries around there, and really want to defend Ukraine, who's trying to break away from the Russia that controlled them before. Even if all that is true and NATO has the best interests at heart, Russia is going to interpret that as an encroachment getting close to the border, and they're going to react as if an enemy is coming to knock, because that is what they're used to, that is what is in their DNA, and that is how they're going to interpret it. So no matter how right NATO is, whether or not they are, I'm not saying they're right, I'm just saying NATO may think it's right. Russia, for its part, sees an enemy knocking on their door, and that is how they're going to react. And that's kind of how they're reacting right now. They want security guarantees, and they want promises in writing, make it legal that Ukraine can't join NATO and things like that, and a bunch of stuff that NATO is not going to agree to. And it's not that Russia is setting up for war. It's that these are the things that Russia wants in order to feel safe. Now, when Russia feels safe, does that mean that they're going to take over Ukraine? Well, I don't know. Certainly, They took a bite out of Ukraine already, just like they took a bite out of Georgia. And when they were expanding the Soviet Union, they certainly took over a lot of countries. So what Russia does when they get, if they get the comfort that they want, does that mean that they're not going to invade Ukraine? No. But these are the things that Russia wants. So will the West be able to actually confront Putin and his actions? Well, the United States, maybe. The current U.S. president, Joe Biden, he's a Cold War guy, and he doesn't see Russia like the New Democrats do. So he does remember them as an enemy. So he's kind of looking at it through that eye, just like he kind of sees China a little bit more hostile than the New Democrats do. So he does see Russia in a more hostile eye. So he's got the guts to confront Putin. Europe does not. Europe, they're a bunch of appeasers. They don't like war. I'm not saying that they're weak. I'm just saying they don't like war, and they're going to do whatever they can do in order to prevent it. And if that means appeasement until it's too late, well, they have a history of doing that. So when it comes to the NATO bloc, Europe is going to be the problem child, because they are going to want to give in as much as possible, give as many chances as possible, just like they're doing with Iran. They want to give Iran the benefit of the doubt. They want to give Iran another chance, another chance, another chance. This is the same thing with Russia. They don't want to, start something, and they don't want to give Russia an excuse to start something now. Europe also depends on Russia for a lot of its energy, and the winter right now is kind of cold, so they don't want Russia cutting off the gas and the power and stuff like that. So there's also that to consider. But since the United States is not as dependent on Russia, they've got a bit more of a free hand. So will the West be able to actually confront Russia? Not the Europeans. But if we're just talking the United States, yes, the United States has a bit more of a leeway. Will they? I don't know. Russia has kind of compared what's going on in Ukraine with the Cuban Missile Crisis, and that is a legitimate comparison. The United States didn't want missiles that close to their border. Russia doesn't want missiles that close to their border. And Russia doesn't seem to mind putting missiles close to other people's borders, but that's another story. They just don't want missiles close to their border. So that's what's going on in Ukraine. The West, like I said, may or may not be able to stand up to them. It depends on what Europe wants to do. Will the United States go in alone? Not for Ukraine. Ukraine had better get it into their heads that they're just a giant battlefield and nobody cares about them. Russia doesn't care about them. The United States doesn't care about them. And sure as heck, Europe doesn't care about them. Ukraine is just a battlefield between Russia and the West. That's what they are. If anyone from Ukraine is listening, that's what you are. You better get that into your head. The West is not your friend. Russia is not your friend. You're just something to be used. That's our analysis. That is where the countries want to come together and have a nice war, because they don't want war on their own soil, so it's going to be Ukraine. How do you personally perceive, next question, how do you personally perceive Russia and China colluding more militarily, and if you think it will last? So right now they are colluding more and more because they have a common enemy, the United States. How long will it last? Until China doesn't need Russia anymore. China and Russia generally don't get along. They have some border issues themselves. Russia sees China as a wedge to use against the United States, and China sees Russia as a wedge to use against the United States. The problem is Russia needs China. China doesn't need Russia. And China really doesn't like Russia. Just like we've said before, when China was trying to cozy up to Australia, China is not Australia's friend, and they'd better get that into their heads. China is not Russia's friend. China is going to use Russia for whatever they can get out of them. And how long it'll last, like I said, until China doesn't need them anymore. Russia may pull the plug, I don't know, but I think Russia needs China more than China needs Russia. China does not need Russia at all. China can get along without Russia. Have you any comments on the current state of the world? Do you see things getting better or worse? Well, the current state of the world, that's kind of a large question. It's kind of a mess right now. Everyone's kind of worried about COVID and stuff like that, but you still do have North Korea. North Korea has not been in the news, but they're still developing their nuclear program. They're still very isolated. They're still very paranoid. And it's not going to be long before Korea does not want to be off the headlines anymore. They're going through a pretty bad winter right now, a pretty bad harvest, and they're going to start needing things. They're going to need relief from the sanctions. So when the famine starts hurting them, you're going to start. We're not done with North Korea. They're going to come back on the world stage. It's just a matter of time. There's Iran. They just said that they're going to enrich uranium up to 60% and no further, they say. That's a lie. Besides, 60% is kind of where you need to be in order to quickly move to a weapons grade. So 60% is kind of where they want to be, and as far as they need to be, because it really is just very quickly to get to the 90% enrichment. So that 60% threshold is, I don't know why the world isn't reacting more than it is, because that's really, you don't want them near that. But Iran says they're going for it, and nobody seems to care. So in other parts of the world, we still have China and India. They're still doing their border things. China and Taiwan, will the United States defend Taiwan? Don't know. There's certainly some backdoor agreements about that, but is the United States willing to spill blood over Taiwan? I don't know. I kind of don't think so, but I'm not willing to bet money on that. Certainly, they're not going to spill a lot of blood on it. I think if China was to invade Taiwan right now, today, the United States may do something, but they won't last very long. It's going to be bloody, it's going to be bad, and the United States is going to get a black eye. Every scenario that the military runs shows the United States losing that kind of war, just because I don't think the United States is going to make the kind of commitment necessary. We always talk about the United States lost Vietnam, the United States only got a draw in Korea, and the United States lost in Afghanistan. That's because the United States never made the commitment necessary to win a war. It's always been very surgical, very, we need to watch out for, we can only go so far. No, when you go to war to kill people and break things. And if you're not willing to kill people and break things, then you're going to lose the war. And that's what happened in Korea. That's what happened in Vietnam, and that's what happened in Afghanistan. There are too many restrictions on what the military could do. We actually were going to win Korea. We actually were going to win Vietnam, but the politicians pulled the military back. And so the United States lost, or came into a draw in the case of Korea. And there were so many restrictions placed in Afghanistan that the United States just got into this quagmire that they couldn't win. If the United States is not willing to fully commit, don't commit at all. And the United States is not willing to fully commit in Taiwan. So that's why they're going to lose. So do I see things getting better, worse or better? They're not going to get better. It'll kind of ebb and flow, but something is eventually going to happen, and there's going to be another war. That's what I think. When, I don't know, but it's going to happen. What's a threat in the world most people overlook? You know what? I really kind of wish I had thought more about this question, because I think most people overlook Afghanistan and India. That doesn't make the headlines very much, or India and China. I think that whole area is kind of overlooked. It doesn't make the news very much, and if it does, it's kind of like just a little throwaway thing. I think nobody's looking at that area, and that area really is a major problem. India and Afghanistan do not like each other. I've written a couple books about India. See, I'm gonna plug myself right now. They're called Tiger's Quest, Tiger's Second Quest, After the Quest, Final Quest, Callus Quest, and they're available. You can go buy them. You can buy the audio dramas too. Ha ha ha. Plug. But I did, so that means I had to do some research on India, and so I kind of know, at least the society there a little bit, and you don't want to get Indians and Afghanis mixed up. They really don't like that. That really is kind of a powderhead that I'm surprised hasn't gone to war yet. At least not nuclear. I'm surprised it hasn't gone nuclear yet. So as much as China and India is a problem and they got nuclear weapons, I'm not terribly sure that one will go nuclear. Afghanistan and India, that one I'm less sure about. So there is going to be a war there. That's what I think people overlook. Favorite video game franchise? I used to play World of Warcraft for a long time, but that company has really, Blizzard, Activision, has really gone downhill. They have a lot of problems with sexual harassment, and I won't go all into it, but it's really a bad company right now, and the game is one of those games where they just they want you to just keep playing every day. They want to lock you in. They care more about hours played rather than you as a player, and they just don't like the players, and their gameplay is really bad right now. So I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV. I really like that one. The director, Yoshida, I can't remember his name, says, play our game for a while, and then when you want to stop playing it, feel free to stop playing it and come back in a few months or whenever you want to. So I kind of like that kind of attitude. So I've been playing that a lot. I've been leveling a summoner and archer and a light mage and scholars. I got those 4 levels. So that's kind of my game. I play that, and I always tell people when they're worried about what's going on. We just went to DEFCON 4 recently. Is this something they need to worry about? And I said, no, I'm playing Final Fantasy 14 tonight. It's nothing to worry about. I'm still playing my video games. So so there you are. There's my favorite video game franchise for today, for tonight. Ask me next year and maybe something else. I don't know. Probably still be Final Fantasy 14. In the event of a power outage during conflict, does the site have an electricity generator to operate the site? Is your server rented and based somewhere commercially for DEFCON warning system website forums? Or do you have your own server to operate at home? We use a host. It's a Hawk host. The company is in Canada, but I believe our server is in Texas. I've been trying to move our server to a Canadian server, one out of the United States, just in case something does happen, so our server will still be up and out of the firing range. So that's kind of so, and they do have backups and things like that. So if something happens, our site will continue running unless the entire country goes down. So that's why I'd like to move it out of the United States somewhere, but at least still be a Western server. So it's not going to be. I don't want our servers in Iran or something like that. But if it was located in Canada or Australia or something like that, I'd kind of like that, someplace a little bit safer where they'll still be running. So an Australia server I think would be nice. It'd increase the ping time, but I think that would be nice. Should we be expecting an unusual event next, or is the reset already in motion? I don't know what you mean by reset. I guess this is kind of a New World Order government takeover thing. False flag. I don't know. I don't buy into that false flag filter card. So no. There's your answer. I said ask me anything, even these kind of questions. So no, there's no unusual event next. The Planet X is not going to come and take over. The missionaries from the who's the not the Mennonites, but the secret cabal. I can't remember what they are. The Masonries, or no, I can't remember what they are. There's some secret cabal is supposed to be working behind the scenes, behind all the governments. No, they're not ready to take over or something like that. You're just being paranoid, and you really need to stop listening to Alex Jones. And I understand Alex Jones is more mainstream now. He's kind of toned down the black helicopter stuff. So actually, I do kind of look in Alex Jones every once in a while just to see what he's posting out of curiosity. And I actually look into some of the really weird sites every once in a while. I'm not going to mention any others, but because I don't want to give them any publicity. But I do look at them every once in a while, just because every once in a while you do. Those people are like really super paranoid, and the super paranoid tend to look at every little thing, and sometimes they're able to find things that other people can't find. They'll find little nuggets of gold in the dirt, and if you know how to sift through all the nonsense that they put out there, sometimes you can find some interesting information that nobody has really noticed. So we do glean through some of these off weird sites just to see what they're posting. We don't do it every day. I know I don't. I'll pop in every once in a while, and when something's starting to go down, maybe I'll look into them a little bit more because they're so paranoid. They're kind of sifting through the information really, really fast, and so they actually are kind of a resource, a good resource if you know how to sift through it. And that's the problem. There's just so much feldercarb there that you really have to wade through it. But it is a resource that can be used. In my personal opinion, there's somebody commenting. In my personal opinion, war on top of it at least is blown out of proportion by everyone. Do you think that realistically, when we see these events, which we think it's close to something big, it's actually really not? So I guess the question is, when it looks like war, is it really war or is it really not? You got to understand that a lot of, remember the old journalism adage, if it bleeds, it leads. These news media organizations and even these even Twitter posters and Facebook and all these sources that we get, MSNBC or Breitbart Daily or LA Times or all these people, they live and die by the number of people who visit their sites or read their tweets or watch their streams or things like that. And if nobody's listening, they're not making any money, or their ego is not being fed. In the case of people who don't charge for their information, so they're going to post what gets the eyes to look at them. And so it's in their best interest to make it as big as eye-catching as they can. And that doesn't mean that all journalists are evil and they're gonna blow things out of proportion. It's just that's just how things work. And editors, see, journalists, the way it works is they write their articles, but they don't write the headlines. The editor writes the headlines, and the editor's job is to get people to look at them. So the journalist may have written a nice neutral, fact-based article, and the editor looks at it and says, "How boring! Let me give it a headline that's going to catch somebody's attention." So you gotta look past the headlines, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't look past the headlines. When you go to someplace like, let me pick Drudge, because I read Drudge a lot, so that's the one that's on the top of my head. So I'm not picking on Drudge Report. I'm just using that because that's the one that comes to my head at first. Drudge reads an article and he posts a headline there. That's supposed to get you to click, and the headline doesn't always necessarily follow what the article's main thrust is about. But he takes the article and tries to make it something that will catch your attention. So that kind of can often make it look worse than it actually is, and that goes for everybody. It's not just Drudge; it's everybody. But that's how it goes out there. So I went a really long circle, and if you've ever seen these DEFCON digests before, I kind of do that. So please forgive me. I really did a big long circle to say, a lot of the times you can't look at the headlines. You really got to make the effort to look into what's going on, to find out whether it's actually, are the objects in the mirror really closer than they appear, or is the dinosaur really 600 yards away and not something you need to worry about. That was a Jurassic Park reference for you young people who never saw Jurassic Park.
Must go faster.
So there's kind of your answer. A lot of people get frightened when we up the DEFCON level. When we hit DEFCON 4 recently, we got a big spike in traffic. DEFCON 4 looks kind of scary, and we spent a lot of time saying it's really not. It just means look at something a bit more closer, but it doesn't mean anything. Please calm down. So that's kind of an example of how a headline can kind of make something look bigger than it actually is. So there's your example. When DEFCON began, how did you collect information, tabulate it, evaluate, and publish your conclusions? In addition to, where were the groups of people who were interested in receiving your evaluations? Well, how did we do it? Well, this is back in 1984. We just did it through watching the news, reading the newspaper, and we disseminated it among friends and family. That's really how it started. It was really, really very, very small. And alerts were given out through the telephone, and those alerts were only for DEFCON 3 and above. So DEFCON 5, DEFCON 4, those weren't given out. So it really was very small. We really didn't have that much of dissemination until we hit the internet in 1990 something. 90, I don't remember when. I know it's out there. You go to the Wayback Machine and you'll find out exactly when we got on the internet, or maybe you can look at Whois. You can look up our domain name. We've had the same domain name for ever since the beginning. We actually own DEFCONWarningSystem.org as well, because somebody snatched it up because they were trying to either live off our name or trying to extort us to buy it. But they gave it up, and we snatched it up. There's someone out there right now who's kind of stole our name as well, and they're trying to ride our coattails. It kind of annoys me, but and my big issue is they really are a clickbait site, and a lot of people are kind of like, is this true? Are we at DEFCON, whatever? And it's like, no, they're just a clickbait site. Don't listen to them. They're always exaggerating what the DEFCON level is, and just the fact that they sit on our name and they're using our name in their site, it just really bugs me. So he doesn't live rent free in my head though. But it just because it came to mind. So, but anyway, okay. Why nuclear war? What got you interested in the subject in the first place? War games. That's where DEFCON came from. I saw DEFCON used in war games, and I liked it.
Go to DEFCON 2.
And the buzzer and everything, it just caught my attention. And then when I saw the day after, that's what tipped it over. So it was war games, and then the day after. I remember my parents watched it in the living room, and I watched it in my room. So we kind of could have all watched it together, but I was a teenager at the time, young teenager, and so teenagers don't watch TV with their parents. So I watched it, and I remember the next day on the school bus when I was going to class, we were all talking about that's what everyone was talking about. So that's what got my interest in nuclear. I've always been kind of interested into the world stuff. One of my favorite movies it's one of these so bad it's good movies is Thief in the Night. It's about the second coming of Jesus Christ. For those who understand what this means, it's a pre-trib rapture story. So if you don't understand what that means, don't worry. Just watch the movie anyway. It really is. It was made in like 1972. It's really bad, but it's so bad it's good. Kind of like Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. So bad it's good. So I've always liked these end-of-the-world movies. Armageddon, 2012. If the world ends, I like that kind of movie. So since I kind of bragged about Thief in the Night, let me go on about the series. The second one is A Distant Thunder. That one movie is actually good. It's not so bad it's good. It's actually a good movie. It's not it's not a great movie, but it's a good movie. And then the third movie and the fourth movie are just bad and really bad. So I really shouldn't be saying that about Christian movies because it will dissuade people from watching a Christian movie and listening to the message of Christ. No, I'm saying that because it's a bad and really bad movie. I'm sorry, they're just bad movies. But Thief in the Night, so bad it's good, and Distant Thunder, an actual good movie. If you ever heard of the movie Left Behind, these movies are what inspired Left Behind. The writers actually said we were inspired by the old Russ Doughton Thief in the Night movies. There's another movie, Years of the Beast. That one is just a compressed movie. It's just one movie. I kind of like that. It has Sarah Rush in it. Don't tell my wife I said that. But there's another movie, The Remaining. That was a more modern movie about God's wrath. That movie is kind of like the Book of Revelation as done by somebody who never read the Book of Revelation. Don't go to that movie looking for a message about Christ or Bible study or anything like that. It really is just an end of the world movie based on the Book of Revelation. I enjoy that movie. There's lots of you get to see a serpent, the serpent's tail come down and stab some guy in the chest, and also and you get these like demons, just tearing people up, and it's a fun movie. If you don't want a religious movie, but you want to see a religious movie where people get that's just like a lot of fun. The Remaining. Just go find that movie. I really like that movie. So okay, see, I got off on these tangents, but you ask me anything, and I'm going to answer anything. The bulletin for the atomic scientist says we are 100 seconds to midnight. In your view, is this pessimistic, optimistic? If you were to set the clock, what time it is? Okay. I have a real problem with the bulletin for atomic scientists doomsday clock. And the reason for that is because it's so political now. They base their clock on their own political leanings rather than how close we are to actual doomsday. And another problem I have with the clock is that there's no frame of reference. If midnight is doomsday, what is all clear? Is it noon? Is it midnight the day before? What is it? Because there's no scale, there's no frame of reference, there's no scale. So what does 1 minute closer to doomsday actually mean? I don't know, because I don't know where the whole thing starts. I don't know where peace is, therefore I can't define what 1 minute away from peace is, or 1 hour, or 1 minute closer to doomsday. So because the doomsday clock is so vague, it really has no value other than we're a minute closer to midnight. What does that mean? Do I need to start, packing my doomsday stuff, or do I still have time to wait? What does 1 second mean? What does 1 minute mean? What does 90 seconds mean? So the doomsday clock is really just propaganda, but it has no defined meaning to it. So we're closer to doomsday, sure, just like I'm closer to dying of old age. But because I don't know when I'm going to die, a minute closer to old age doesn't mean anything. So it's kind of backwards. I knew when I was born, but I don't know when I'm going to die. So 1 minute, being 1 minute older means nothing. Well, the doomsday clock, I know when doomsday is, but I don't know when doomsday is not, when peace is. So 1 minute closer to doomsday doesn't mean anything. So okay, that's my take on the doomsday clock. Plus again, like it's so political. And the clock used to count down to nuclear war. Now it countdowns to just a generic doomsday, whether from global warming or poverty or whatever political fancy has hit them right now. So the clock just doesn't mean anything. Do you believe social media like TikTok are dumbing down society and actually making people more dangerous? What do you think can be done to remedy this issue? I don't like TikTok because it's run by China, and that's a big data gathering thing. It's the same thing with Facebook. I'm on Facebook just because a lot of people use it. I flat refuse to use TikTok. That's the same thing with Twitter, but some things I got to do just because it gets we can reach more people out there. But does social media dumb down society? Well, does talking people dumb down society? The problem with social media is that it's harder to have an actual conversation with someone, just because everybody who's been on social media knows that it's impossible to get your emotional view across because you're just typing out words on a screen. So it's impossible to give inflections or do body language just like I'm doing right now. You hear my inflections, you see my body language, you kind of understand what I'm talking about. This digest would be a lot different if I just typed stuff out. You really kind of wouldn't have got my excitement over things like The Day After or Thief in the Night or things like that. You wouldn't get my disdain for the Doomsday Clock if you weren't listening to me. And you can't do that on Facebook or Twitter or things like that. Now, social media where you can make these videos, again, that's kind of one-sided because you're just sitting down and make a video like I am right now. There's no dialogue going. So social media, no, it's not dumbing down society in that it's a tool. It's just that it's how we use the tool. And if we're not using the tool correctly, it's not the tool's fault. It's our fault. So I don't blame TikTok or Twitter or Facebook for dumbing down society. We're dumbing down society on ourselves because we just don't hold ourselves to a higher standard. There's my soapbox. What can we do to remedy the issue? I don't know. It's here to stay. So what do you do to remedy the situation? Go outside and mingle with human beings. And that's a lot for me to say because I'm a very introverted person and I live in my house. I have a house on 20 acres in a forest away from people, and that's the way I like it. So it's just me and my wife. We don't have children. We have dogs and cats. And if I could have horses, I would. And I'm a very kind of antisocial person. So for me to say go out and, talk to people, I'm a gigantic hypocrite, because that's exactly what I don't do. Even in church, I kind of just hunker down, and one of the things the pastor would say is, okay, could you everybody get up and say hello to everybody? And I'm just kind of looking at my bulletin, don't talk to me, don't talk to me, don't talk to me. And when they come up and say hi, I just say hi and just keep looking at my bulletin, trying to give them the issue, don't talk to me, I don't know, because I don't know them, I'm shy, and I don't want to know you, and just get away from me, I don't know you, don't talk to me, and just so. All right, there, you just knew a little bit more about me than you should. Well, what's your take on YouTube removing the dislike function? Do you believe this is justified? Do you think this is draconian in nature? I think it's stupid. I actually like the old star rating they used to give, because it's a lot more detailed than up and down. Now you can even do down. They didn't actually take away the dislike function. Is still there. The creator of the video can see it. It's just not made public. I guess that was in response to people bombing certain videos to downrate them. I don't like it. I think it's an overreaction. I kind of understand why they did it. I just think it's more society coddling than needs to be done. I don't need Daddy YouTube protecting my feelings from the public knowing how many people dislike my videos. A couple of people do. I wish more people watched our videos. Maybe I'd do more of these if more people watched them. But I do get a little depressed when I see the video, the number of views so low. But oh well, that's what it is. You watch or you don't watch. I know I'm not the greatest person to be looking at. I'm not enigmatic like some of these people who make these videos that get thousands and thousands of views. So that's just the way it is. I'm not a media guy. When I did an interview with some radio program, they actually said Tom is not a media guy, and they said they didn't say that to be insulting. They said that to the host, so he knew how to treat me differently than he would treat a media guy. So he held my hand a little bit more. Was very tolerant when I wouldn't know what to say or had to stop or had to think or something like that. So he was really nice to me. It was a really good interview, but it was just hearing that he's not a media guy. It was very, very true. I'm not a media guy. Let's see. What is your take on South Africa, Australia, Germany, and other countries adopting a borderline totalitarian regime post-COVID? Do you think this is a sign of something nastier coming down the pipeline? Government loves power. Whenever you give them power, they will always try and take more. The old saying, give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Government lives to feed upon itself. Government lives to expand. So when you give them power, why wouldn't they? Eric Holder famously said, that was actually misattributed to, I believe, Nancy Pelosi in the United States. He said, I can't think of it. Never let a crisis go to waste or something like that. So, and this is not limited to the Democrats. The Republicans do this too, and I'm sure in your countries the Conservatives do it, or the Labor Party does it, or the Conservative Democrats, or the Christian Democrats, or whatever party you have in your country, or your one-party country like China or North Korea. I don't know if anyone in China is watching this. It'd be funny if they were. Let me know if you're from China and you're actually watching this. I'd love to know. Actually, let me go off on a tangent for something like that. Especially if we have anybody from Russia watching this. We have somebody from Russia on our staff. If any from China or any of these non-Western countries, the information we get is very Western oriented. We try really, really hard to get our information from all kind of sources, but they're kind of limited because for one thing, for translation issues, but also because there's simply more openness in the West, so we have more channels open. So if you see us leaning too far to pro one side, and you don't think we're giving China a fair shake, or you don't think we're giving Russia a fair shake, say something. Drop us a line, come to our forums, say this is how we see things in our country, this is how we're looking at it. I would love to hear stuff like that. We do have people from Russia come on our site and they say, you Western people, this is how you're looking at it. This is how we're looking at it. And I read those things very carefully because I do understand that, as hard as I try to be neutral, I have a Western perspective. And so I gotta do my best to try and not do that, not think that way. So I love hearing from, quote, the other side, even though there is no other side when it comes to the DEFCON warning system, because we're not picking sides. We're not trying to say, yay, United States, let them win World War III and boo Russia, or boo North Korea, or boo whoever. All we want to do is just say nuclear war is coming and here's a warning. That's all we care about. We have a politics section and we'll talk about politics there, but it does not affect our analysis of nuclear war. That's why I tried really, really hard, the very first question, to say, what was Russia thinking? And I didn't go on about Russia. Russia's bad and they're just going to expand their empire and long live the Soviet Union. And it was nothing like that. I said, here is Russia's real thinking on this, and they really do see themselves as under attack, and I can understand that point of view. And I'm going to say one more thing, and I'm going to get off this little sidetrack. Vladimir Putin, I don't know if he believes this anymore. Well, no, I think he does believe it, but he once said, anybody who doesn't miss the Soviet Union has no heart. But anyone who wants it back has no mind. So he's not looking to bring back the Soviet Union. But I think as he ages a little bit, he's now kind of looking a bit more fondly back at the Soviet Union, and maybe Russia can be great again. But no, he's not looking to make another Soviet Union. We're not going to see the Warsaw Pact again. We're not going to see Russia invading other countries again. That's not happening. But I do think he's looking back a bit more fondly on it, and he does kind of miss those days of being a really big world power. So, but okay, like I said, I got off too far, but so we do try really, really hard to look at every side, and if we're not doing that, please come on our forums and tell us and give us your side, give us what you're thinking, especially if you're from China or Russia or India or Iran. God, if somebody from Iran is listening to this, yes, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your side of things, because we're not getting it very much over here, because it's a very Western-oriented news conglomerate. We try really hard to get all sides, but we're human and we fail, and we do have our unconscious biases, because I live in the United States, I was born in the United States, I am a Native American, and so I have my go home team. What can I say? So did I kind of get off? Yeah, I was talking about the government getting more power. So with COVID, I honestly think I can only speak for the United States for here. So the other countries, take this with a grain of salt. You'll have to make your own evaluation. I honestly think the United States the government is actually trying their best. They kind of don't know what to do. So they're just doing this. They're doing the only thing they know how, and that is to control. And that's not to say that's not a bad thing, because they don't know what else to do. So So let's do a lockdown because we don't know what else to do. We don't know enough about this virus, and we need to do something quickly. So let's do this because it will save the most people as far as we can see. Now the fact that people got depressed and committed suicide and things like that, well, that kind of wasn't on their radar. But they really are trying their best, even if it doesn't turn out that way. It's not some. At least for the most part, it's not some power grab. I'm sure there's some power grabby people in there, but for the most part, these are good people who are trying really, really hard. They just don't know. They don't know what else to do. They're at a loss. This bug is just beating them. The Omicron is thankfully not as nasty, but who knows what the next mutation will be. This is one where you got to give them the benefit of they're trying. They are trying. So there you are. What is your opinion of the following people? Elon Musk. There's several people here. Elon Musk, he provides my internet. I have Starlink internet because I live out in the middle of nowhere. I used to have HughesNet. Oh God, HughesNet was just awful. Now I have Starlink, much better. So I like Elon Musk, and he's got some some very interesting ideas. He has some other ideas that I kind of disagree with. Overall, I like Elon Musk. I don't really have a problem with him. I don't see why not. He's rich. Good for him. He doesn't seem to be one of these people who roll over people to get rich. He's just rich because he came up with some really good ideas. Good for him. I wish I had some of his money. Jeff Bezos, Susan I can't even pronounce this name. Wojcicki. I don't know. Jack Dorsey, Bill Gates. Don't know. Don't care. I know Bill Gates. Susan I don't know who she is. Jack Dorsey, I recognize the name but can't think of it. Jeff Bezos, I recognize the name but couldn't tell you who he is right now. If I looked him up, I'd know exactly who he is. But I can't. Is he the head of Apple or something? I don't know. Basically, I don't know them because I don't care. Bill Gates I know because he's a very big name. I always thought Bill Gates was a bad person. Now he made his fortune stealing other people's ideas, kind of like Seth MacFarlane. He's a famous guy for stealing other people's ideas. I don't like it when people get famous for stealing other people's ideas. So I don't like Bill Gates. I don't like Seth MacFarlane. Kamala Harris, I think her politics are terrible. I don't think she's a good vice president. I don't think she's qualified to be president. That's my opinion. You ask. If you don't like my opinion, don't ask my opinion. Is alien invasion including war in Israel? No. Unless the aliens are going to be dropping nuclear weapons on us like in Independence Day, no. Close Encounters was my favorite movie until I saw Battlestar Galactica. Now that's my favorite movie. Let's see. What are today's breakfast specials? I had Captain Crunch. Tomorrow I may have some buttered toast or maybe Captain Crunch. I don't know. I haven't been feeling very well, so I kind of, I don't know. I eat because I have to, because if I don't, it'll make me sicker. But if I do eat, it'll make me sicker. I don't know. They don't know what's wrong with me. Whatever. But that's what I had for breakfast. And I just gave you a bunch of irrelevant information, which I kind of do. Are you just one person or a team? I personally am just one person. However, I do have a team. We do have a staff. There is a deputy director who's ready to step in and take over. He has all the authority I do, and when I'm unavailable, he has the authority to change the DEFCON levels. He has the keys. We also have 1, 2, 3, 4 other staff members. One is specialties in radio operations, which is something we'd like to get off the ground. One is he collates data and stuff like that. The other two are one of them is a Russian, and one of them is I want to say Ukrainian, but I'm not actually sure. I never actually inquired where they're from. So he may have told me, and I just put it off to the side. But he's Eastern European for sure. And now I'm going to feel bad because he's going to see this and he says, "Why don't you know where I'm from?" So I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Please tell me where you're from again. So, but we do have a staff, and they advise on the DEFCON level, but the director, me, is the one who controls the DEFCON level. This is not a democracy, as I tell all my staff members when they're coming on. DEFCON is not a democracy. It is a monarchy, and I sit as king. So I decide the DEFCON level. They advise, but I'm the one who changes it. I'm the one who makes the ultimate decision. And they agree with me or they disagree with me. That's just the way that it is. But so there you are. The exact day, or at least the exact month that Israel will strike Iran. I don't know. If I did know, I wouldn't tell you. My son deploys to Kuwait sometime next year. Normally it would be a gravy tour, but do you foresee tensions rising in the area after the Afghanistan pullout? Kuwait? I don't see Iraq invading Kuwait. They have their own problems. So I would guess it's a gravy tour. I kind of don't know what's like on the ground over there. My advice would be to ask somebody who's been in Kuwait recently. They'll tell you what it's like. Whatever it's like now, I don't foresee it changing in the future. Iraq has its own problems with Iran, and there's no reason why they're going to invade Kuwait again. If they do, the United States is probably just going to go running in there again. And why would they want that? So I think Kuwait was just going to be a gravy tour. I don't think you have anything to worry about. But again, ask somebody who's been to Kuwait recently. They'll tell you more than anything I could. Why didn't you warn us about the communists taking over America through the Democrat Party? Because that's not our focus. And also the communists are not trying to take over through the Democrat Party. The United States school system has done a really terrible job at teaching people civics. The Democrats, not to pick on the Democrats, but since this person is asking specifically about the Democrats, I'm going to focus on the Democrats. But this is not an attack on the Democrats. The Democrats are not a communist party. I don't know why people think that. Russia is not communist. China is not communist. North Korea is not communist. They are socialists. People in the Democrat Party are now starting to openly admit they're socialists. So I don't have any problem calling Democrats a socialist party. They're starting to admit it now. Socialists believe that the federal government should maintain control over more of society. Well, I'm not going to go into big old thing about what socialism is. You can look this stuff up. You can listen to Patriot Channel, or you can listen to the left wing channel on Sirius, or wherever it is. But the Democrats are socialists; they're not communists. Communism, I actually don't have a problem with. It really is everybody looking out for everybody else. The early Christian church was pseudo-communist. Everybody, gave what they had, and they put it in a pot, and divided it up. There was actually a communist party in the early United States. I think it's a great form of life. The problem is it's just not workable, because we human beings, we need to have reward for our effort, and greater effort yields greater reward, or greater value yields greater reward. That's kind of how human beings have existed throughout history, and it's worked. Not everybody is mind geared to live in the type of government that a communist government would be, and that's okay. Maybe I wouldn't either. Maybe I wouldn't like being a communist. If you're actually okay with that kind of government, go to it. Because in theory, there is no government in communism. We just have a bunch of rules that we live by, but everybody is equal. Problem is, in socialism, that's not true. Everybody is not equal. There is the elite class, and there's the peasant class. And in theory, there's the middle class, but everybody is supposed to be working toward this middling ground with an elite class ruling over them. That's socialism. And the problem is, well, no, I'm not even going to go into the problem, because that goes into, again, what socialism is, and I don't want to get into that. That's not what the question was about. The question was, are the communists taking over America? No, they're not. Socialists. The socialists are. Last question, why don't you do more of these DEFCON digests? Because I don't like doing them. I don't like running monologue. If I do more DEFCON digests, if we had an interviewer, if somebody could ask me questions and I could answer. But the fact is that I have to do these monologues and things like that. I'm not good at monologues. I'm not good at talking off the cuff like this, or making up these big string of lines in order to sound interesting for an hour or two or something like that. That's not me. I need somebody to talk to. I need a back and forth, and I'm just not good at these. So that's why I don't really do them. If you remember the DEFCON digest, we tried doing them every month, and it just wasn't working, because I didn't like doing them. It was basically me just reading something and giving my extra thoughts and things like that. It'd be a lot better if I had somebody to talk to. So if we ever get an interviewer to do these things, maybe I'll do more of them. But right now we don't do them because I just kind of don't like doing them. So there's my answer. I know that you must have been thinking, well, why don't you like doing them? That's kind of a mean thing. Why don't you like doing them? You're the director. You're supposed to be doing them. It's just me. I just don't. I'm not comfortable doing them. I'm not comfortable talking to a camera like this. Especially with no interaction. Like I said, if I had an interaction, maybe I would. So anyway, those are the Ask Me Anythings. I do appreciate these questions. If you want to ask me any more questions, come to our community forum, community.defconwarningsystem.com. Feel free to interact us with there. Ask me anything there. And there we can have a dialogue. I love doing dialogues. I love going on to forum. I'm on the community forum all the time, several times a day, just because I love seeing what's going on there. I love the interaction. I love seeing it light up and things like that, and all sorts of analysis and debates and back and forth and things like that. I really love seeing that. So if you'll come and do it, it'll make me all the more happy. So thank you very much, and have a better 2022.